Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something important, a health topic that's been, well, bubbling up and is now pretty much transforming how doctors think. We're talking about the connection between diabetes and eye disease. And it's surprisingly direct now. Yeah, we're moving past just thinking they're related. We've got some vital new insights here from really cutting edge research. Specifically, we're digging into a brand new publication just out this May 2025 called Diabetes and Eye Disease, a Clinical Interconnection. It's from Clinical Research Publishing. And it pulls together results from these huge international clinical trials. Honestly, it's changing how we literally see the issue. So, our mission today: pull out the key stuff for you, the nuggets of knowledge you really need. Think of it as a shortcut to understanding why your eyes are increasingly seen as this critical window into your overall health, especially with diabetes. Okay, let's unpack this. So we've known for ages that diabetes and eye problems often show up together. But what's new here? What makes these studies really scream direct biological link?
That's exactly the point. The whole perspective has shifted. These May 2025 findings, they really represent a leap in understanding.
Yeah.
The trials confirm it. Diabetes and eye disease are biologically and clinically interconnected. It's not just correlation anymore. And what's really striking is the strength of this new evidence. It shows much stronger, more direct links between having diabetes and progressive damage to your eyes. We're talking things like diabetic retinopathy, where the tiny blood vessels in the back of your eye get damaged,
Right.
and macular edema, which causes swelling, blurry central vision, and even glaucoma, but starting earlier than we might typically expect.
Wow, okay.
And importantly, this isn't just one small study. These were big, multi-center trials, funded by heavy hitters like the National Eye Institute and major global drug companies, too.
So serious backing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This gives the findings real weight. It's not just a guess. It's solid science.
That is compelling. But let's get into the details, because you mentioned the data itself is groundbreaking. What specifically did they find that was so, well, surprising?
Okay, yeah, the specifics are quite stark. Honestly, a bit of a wake-up call. For instance, get this. Over 80% of people with type 2 diabetes showed early signs of damage in their retinal blood vessels
80%. Wow.
within just 5 years of being diagnosed. Think about that. 5 years. The impact is already there, measurable.
That's fast.
It is.
Hmm.
But here's where it gets even more impactful, I think. There was a big phase 3 trial, the Vision DM study. It showed that these changes in the retina, they actually start before you'd see any visible symptoms of diabetic retinopathy.
Before symptoms, so before someone even notices blurry vision or floaters or anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is huge for trying to intervene early, right?
Absolutely.
It means we're not just waiting for problems to become obvious.
Right.
We now have these new biomarker imaging techniques, fancy tech, basically.
Hmm.
And these allow us to detect the very early stages of diabetes-caused inflammation in the eye.
So you can see it happening almost microscopically.
Yeah, pretty much. And that makes early intervention a real practical thing, not just a hope. And we know intervention works. The study showed patients who kept tight control of their blood sugar and got regular retinal scans. They had a 60% lower rate of their eye disease progressing to a stage where it really threatened their vision.
60% lower progression. That's
Yeah.
that's huge. So unpack that a bit. How does catching it that early make such a big difference? What does this mean for someone maybe diagnosed 5 years back who hasn't really thought about their eyes this way?
Well, it means finding the problem when it's still tiny, right? Before it causes damage you can't undo, like finding a tiny crack in a dam wall before it bursts.
Good analogy.
And what's truly fascinating here, the bigger picture, is that the eye is now really seen as this non-invasive window into what's happening with diabetes complications all over the body.
A non-invasive window. How so?
Think about it. The blood vessels in your retina, the back of your eye, are tiny, delicate. But doctors can see them relatively easily with the right equipment.
Right. Unlike vessels deep inside your kidneys or heart.
Exactly. So the microscopic damage they can now spot in those eye vessels, it often mirrors similar damage that's quietly starting in blood vessels throughout your whole cardiovascular system.
Ah, I see. So it's an early warning sign for bigger problems.
Potentially, yes. A visible clue. It could really change how doctors monitor diabetes, giving them sort of a roadmap to systemic health that they didn't quite have before. There's a quote from Dr. Alina Monroe. She was the lead investigator for one of the big trials, the iSave study. She said, and I think this sums it up perfectly, these trials provide irrefutable evidence that diabetes is not just a metabolic condition. It's a vascular disease that deeply affects eye health. And here's the key part. We must treat vision preservation as a primary outcome in diabetes care.
Vision preservation as a primary outcome. That really does feel like a shift, doesn't it? Not just a side effect to manage, but a core goal. So, practically, what does that mean for how different doctors work together? Like your eye doctor, your diabetes specialist, your regular GP.
Yeah, it absolutely demands more teamwork. Moving away from, treating things in isolation,
Yeah.
the immediate impact. Well, the FDA has actually fast-tracked several new therapies
Hmm.
being investigated specifically for diabetes-related vision loss.
Fast-tracked. So things are moving quickly.
Relatively speaking, yes, there's a real push because the need is clear. For example, there are studies under review right now. One's called Ocuglex 101. It's an injectable therapy, goes right into the retina.
Directly treating the eye damage.
Targeted, yeah, for patients with those early signs of microvascular damage. Then there's something called GlucoView AI.
AI, interesting.
Right? It's an artificial intelligence tool. It's designed to analyze retinal scans and actually predict the risk of diabetes progressing. Sort of like a smart assistant for diagnosis.
Okay.
And another one, the DRET trial, is looking at whether some of those newer diabetes meds, the GLP-1s you hear about for blood sugar,
Right.
whether they might also help prevent or slow down this retinal damage in diabetics,
Yeah.
which is, a really interesting potential side benefit. So all this raises this important question about implementation, right? How do we get this working in practice?
Exactly.
And the experts involved in these trials, they're strongly urging much closer collaboration. Primary care docs, endocrinologists, ophthalmologists, they need to manage diabetes, looking at both the whole body, the systemic picture, and the eye, the ocular perspective, together.
Yeah.
It's really about being proactive based on this much fuller picture of the patient's health.
It really does sound like these early retinal screenings could become, maybe even should become, a kind of gold standard in diabetes care soon, not just for saving sight, which is obviously critical, but as you said, using the eye to get clues about bigger issues before they cause major problems elsewhere. That's powerful.
It really is.
And you mentioned trials are ongoing. People can potentially get involved.
That's right. Larger trials are still happening, recruiting patients in places like New York, Chicago, San Diego. So the research is definitely continuing to build.
Good to know. Okay, so
Yeah.
let's just recap this deep dive then. This new research we've looked at, especially from diabetes and eye disease, a clinical interconnection. It has seriously shifted our understanding of diabetes, hasn't it? It really cements the eye's role, not just as something affected by diabetes, but as a key early warning system. A biological barometer, maybe.
That's a great way to put it, a barometer,
Right.
and also a key target for both finding problems early and for treatment.
Right.
And I think the final thought for listeners, for you, is how this interconnected view really pushes for a more proactive, holistic way to manage conditions like diabetes. Knowing about these advances, it hopefully empowers you to be more engaged in your own health monitoring, your own care, especially if diabetes is something you or your family deals with. The eye is telling us a really important story about the body. And now, thankfully, we have better ways to listen and to act on that story.
Well said. And if you are interested in keeping up with the clinical trials on diabetes and vision research, the place to go is www.clinicalresearchpublishing.org, diabetes-eye-trials. We definitely encourage you to keep doing your own deep dives, keep exploring, keep learning. Thanks for joining us.